All right, great. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the July 14th, 2026 MFRAC meeting. I am VJ Kapoor. I am the receiver for the city of Chester. Delighted to be joined here today by most of our committee. We have Mayor Stefan Roots from the city of Chester. We have Ms. Kelly Diaz from Delaware County. We have Mr. Andrew Sheaf from DCED. Mr. Cody Deal, also from DCED, and Jacob Polycove, who is my special assistant. I do anticipate Councilman Shaquan Davis to join us a little bit later, and we will, of course, get him on as soon as we can. We're going to do something a little bit different today. July 1st was my sort of official 1 year anniversary as receiver, and we've in a couple of the prior MFRACs. I've been asking questions of people and learning about kind of what their thoughts are. We're gonna switch roles a little bit today. Mayor Roots is going to get back in the chair of interviewing people as he did. I don't know the last time you did this, Mayor, but we're looking forward to it again. And to talk with me a little bit about kind of some of my thoughts, kind of my experiences, and kind of what to expect from here. So. With that, Mayor, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. This is exciting. For those of you who don't know, I started a community journalism project right here in Chester 20 years ago, this past April. It's amazing. I thought it would last one paper. It's lasted 2 decades. So let's get right into it in the interest of time. I'm going to ask you a question that's asked of many people who come to Chester to do work, to live, and it goes something like that, like this, like you're not, in the term we use around here, Chester made, VJ.
Right.
You're not Chester made. So give me your thoughts on Chester as an outsider and not in your role or capacity as receiver.
Yeah, so that's probably a good place to start, right? And I have heard the term outsider used. What one of the things that I'll say is, Chester is not like any other place that I have visited or worked in or kind of learned about. It is a incredibly unique place. A couple of things that stick out to me in terms of just kind of the culture of the city. One is that it's an extremely fiercely proud city. The people who are from here, who may have been born here and moved away, who may have had family members and still claim citizenship, for lack of a better term, to the city. It's a fiercely proud place, and I think people truly, truly do care about that. The other thing is like it's got a reputation for being tough, but what I have experienced here in the day to day is just a level of genuine caring among people and like among residents for each other. There is an incredible sense of like community here. And some of it I think has to do with families going back generations, right? And who've known each other and who've had parents who went to school here or in many people in Delaware County, right? Their families started here, right? As immigrants. And so this is the first place where they may have lived in the US. And so there is this genuine sense of community that I've seen and people really kind of looking out for each other and taking care of each other. Um, it's also a place to me where I've seen people kind of like have to they they're very fiercely also independent. They've had to kind of they haven't gotten a lot of help in certain ways, and they've been able to kind of make do. And the final thing that I'll say about Chester too that I've noticed here, and I'm learning more about it, is just the incredible creativity in the city, the artistic community in the city, whether it's photographers, whether it's folks who paint, just the art scene in Chester is pretty incredible. And for people like who don't know a lot about the city, like I certainly didn't when I first got here, just the level of creativity and just the artists that you have in this community are incredible as well.
All right, that's good. So the reason we're talking today is you've just reached a milestone, your 1 year anniversary as the receiver that occurred on July 1st. So a rhetorical question, but I'm gonna ask just the same. Should we be buying you cakes and balloons or a sympathy card? Okay. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding. Don't answer that one. But the real question is like how would you describe your first year? Give me something that stands out as either a high or a low that you've experienced in your
yeah.
first.
So I think one of the greatest highs that I had was a couple of weeks ago. I was driving. It was a Saturday. It was June 20th. I had actually was just on my way back from picking up a couple photos from Tim Hudson, who had just had a photography exhibit the night before. And I was driving by Memorial Park, where the Juneteenth celebration was going on. And it was a gorgeous day out. There were tons of people out. You could see all of the various like tents and everything set up. And then you could see the pool. And there were folks in the pool because that was the first day that the city opened the pool. And there were tons of cars parked around Memorial Park. And for me, that was just an incredible just encapsulation of Chester, right? And what the community was and is and what will be. And what I mean about that is just the city coming together to celebrate obviously a very important holiday and all the work that went into organizing that and in particular as well seeing the pool open, which to me has been really important, and I know for you as well, Mayor, to see that open over the years, and not just like as a way of allow of an amenity, right, for the members of the public to use, right, especially on these what's been a pretty hot summer already. But also kind of as a symbol, right, of being able to, open something to provide, services to the community, and just driving by over there, I had just an incredible smile on my face. Coming from someone who had created some art that was indicative of the city, seeing the city celebrate on a gorgeous day in a public space, an important holiday, and seeing everybody have a great time. Like Mayor, that was probably one of my big highs. The second thing, let me just throw one other thing out there as well. One of the nice things about being the receiver and not the chief of staff is it allows me to get out in the community a little bit more. And about a month and a half ago, I had the chance to meet with some students at the STEM Academy at Showalter. And I had the opportunity to kind of talk with them for about an hour and a half, and just kind of getting a sense of the next generation of folks, who are growing up here in Chester and the pride that they have, obviously, in this city, and their desire for a better future. For themselves as well as others. And so some of the direct questions that they were not afraid to ask me. One of the students had invited me, to come out there. I think he was the class president, the freshman class president, who would I just have to tell the story because I think it's again, it's just indicative of some of the folks you have in Chester. He had not yet he was running for class president, I think freshman class president, and emailed me and said, look, if he had won, would I be willing to go out there and talk to them? And I was like, look, man, I'll be happy to talk to you whether or not you win or not. But some to see that, to see kind of the next generation, and to have a real frank conversation with them was another really big high.
Well, you've talked about the fact that you were chief of staff prior to becoming the receiver. It's not like for people who don't know that he just came on board a year ago. You've been around here for a little while. Can you describe what it was like just to take that job on as receiver?
So, it's so let me, if you don't mind, Mayor, let me start back to sort of taking the job as chief of staff and then getting to receiver because I think the through line here is maybe in my mind it's sort of been a process. When we first got here in April of 2020. Probably the best way to describe the city's condition is kind of using like this kind of medical analogy. And, getting here, the city was flatlined. Like we had got in here and, a third of the workforce had been laid off. The city was running out of cash. The pension fund was about to run out of money. It was absolutely flatlined. And so we spent about the first year, making changes and kind of addressing a situation to try and get the city's pulse back. And then in the next couple of years after that, I would say the city was kind of on life support. We were trying to address the problems kind of step by step. And now we're at a point right now where I think the city is kind of still in the hospital. It's been moved to a different floor, and my job right now, with everybody's help, is to try and figure out a plan to get it out of the hospital, and almost more importantly, to make sure it doesn't go back in. So, I think the first couple of years here were in some respects just trying to get, just trying to deal with crisis after crisis, right? Um, and I'm happy to say, with a lot of the great help of a lot of the city staff, and community members, we've been able to do that. So, when I took over as receiver about a year ago, a lot of my focus was, we had gotten, I think, the right people in the right places. And that was personnel. We had gotten the city kind of stabilized from a financial end. And so my last year, the last year that I've been spent as receiver, have been really focused, on city operations, on trying to improve the operations of the city. And my theory behind this is that, obviously receivers focus. One of the main focuses on the financial aspects. There's no question about that. And that's something that certainly we've been working on with city staff and with the elected officials. But at the end of the day, what a city exists for is to provide services to its residents. And we can address the financial issues, but if we can't provide good services to the community, then we're not doing what we need to be doing. And a lot of that has to do with, making sure that our operations are running well, that we've got accountability throughout the organization, and that in addition to having higher expectations, right, to hold the expectations high, we've got to be able to we got to be able to implement, right? We've got to be able to do the basic things of getting those jobs done. So, this past year has been focused on that area. I'm incredibly proud of where the city is right now in terms of its staff and in terms of its workforce. And my thoughts, at least from an operational end, are trying to think about how do we kind of hand back, a lot of that organization, to city staff, so that, when the receiver goes away, whether it's me or somebody else, that the city's in a position to be able to, to run itself efficiently, and to have the capabilities and the capacity to do that. So, that's really been the last year for me.
All right, you mentioned two things, but I'm gonna throw in a third. You mentioned your primary job is to deal with the finances of the city. Secondly, you expressed the importance of getting the operations of the city, functioning as we should. But there was one, some people feel as though a promise that was made, or maybe it's more of an expectation of you, and that is for you to come in here and attract businesses to Chester. I'm curious, what is it going to take for progress to be made to the point that Chester will look like the place worth investing in? And is that your role? Are you doing any work in that area? Do you plan to do any work in that area?
Yeah. So, Mayor, what I think in terms of my take on local government is this: is the better the operations that you have, right? The better the day-to-day operations that a city has, and that's police, fire, public works, codes, parks, and health, other things that the city does. The better the services you have over there, the more you're going to be able to attract outside folks to invest in your city. And so for me, those things that you outlined over here, the finances, the operations, and attracting, outside economic development, to me, those are all intertwined. It's the same answer, that I would give across the board. And that is to improve the operations of the city, to make the lives of Chester residents better. And what I believe that will do is that will begin to change, what's a narrative about the city, right? That is in some ways negative. In some aspects, that may be true. In other aspects, I don't think it is at all. And I think the city has made significant progress over the years in improving those operations. So when someone says to me like, well, why haven't you brought any business in over here? My thought on this is like, well look, like what I think the way that we will do that organically over time is by investing in the city and by investing in the operations. And again, not only is that going to bring in outside business who will want to come in and invest, right? But it's also going to improve the day-to-day lives of residents, right? It's almost a twofer in those ways, right? You're improving the lives of the residents, you're providing better services here, you're making Chester a better place to live. And when you make Chester a better place to live, it becomes a place where people will want to invest in. I don't necessarily believe or subscribe to the idea of these kind of home runs, where you've got one incredibly large economic development project that is going to change the face of the city forever, right? Chester's kind of littered with those, right? You've got an incinerator, right? You've got a jail, you've got a sports stadium over there. In many respects, those were each arguably economic development concepts. And financially, while they have contributed, and again, we want to be very clear about the casino, right? Let me put the casino in there as well. Um, in my mind, the better way to do that, the way this is going to stay long term, is by that gradual growth and the gradual improvement in operations that will get the improvement over the city. I think, Mayor, you're seeing it as well, right? When we go into City Hall, there's a lot of work that's being done in the city already. There's a lot of houses that are being rehabbed. There's a fair amount of construction that's going on in the city, and that's what we want to encourage. And I think we encourage that by making the city safer, by making it cleaner, and by encouraging economic development that way.
Excellent. You're the receiver. Some would say you or your predecessor put us in bankruptcy. How's that term sit with you? That it was a process that you just took a piece of a puzzle and threw it in a bucket for something to come out. And as you kind of answer that question, also include how long is this going to take?
Right. So what I would say to folks in that like is that Chester was not going to be able to pay its bills. Uh, Chester would not be able to restructure itself outside of bankruptcy. That became kind of very clear based on the economic condition of the city. And what I would say is bankruptcy is a process, right? Bankruptcy is a forum by which debt are restructured and a plan is created that needs to be approved by a bankruptcy court. And so to me, did my predecessor, Michael Dowery, quote, put the city in bankruptcy? Yes, the receiver filed for bankruptcy. However, under a Chapter 9, the court has to find you eligible for bankruptcy, and the court absolutely did. So, for me, in many respects, and for my predecessor, based on the economic condition of the city, um, uh, I mean, bankruptcy was really the only option here in order to restructure the city's economic situation. So in terms of kind of how long this is going to take, right? So let me put a little bit of context over here. Chester has been in bankruptcy for a little bit over 3.5 years, filed in November of 2022. And I think the court approved it in March of 23. But let's use November 2022 as that time. So a little bit over 3.5 years. San Bernardino, California, that was in Chapter 9, was in for around 10 years. Detroit officially was in bankruptcy for 13 years. So in terms of kind of like putting that into context, again, this is not what we hope to do. Let me be clear on that. But I need to put like the length of time into some context. In my mind, what I would like to be doing right now is our first focus has been on the operations, right? Which again, I think have been stabilized. And I think we're at a point right now where the city is certainly certainly there's room for improvement, but by and large, I think we've gotten ourselves to a pretty good point. The next move is to start to work on what's called the plan of adjustment. The plan of adjustment is what the plan is that needs to go in front of a bankruptcy court that would be approved by the bankruptcy court. And then after it's approved by the bankruptcy court, it that becomes basically the governing document for the city, and that has the force of law. Now, again, I wanted to make sure the operations were at a point where we felt comfortable, and I do think we're at that point now. There's a couple of items that are kind of outstanding right now that would have an impact on the plan of adjustment. The most important of which is the bondholder case that's currently still in front of the Third Circuit. We haven't gotten a decision there, and so that has made it a little bit difficult, right, to be able to fully craft a plan of adjustment. But in my mind, that is the next place that I am turning to. And kind of given where the city's economic conditions are, that's where my focus really kind of needs to be. And in reaching out and in talking to the creditors over the next couple of months. One of the benefits I think of our experience here, and certainly of my financial team here, is that we know Chester very well. We've been here for a little bit over 6 years, and we've got good folks in the finance department, and so I think we've got much more confidence in the numbers now than we did when we first started, right? And that's critically important when you create a plan. But my hope is, to have a plan, hopefully in the next couple of months, that we will be able to kind of discuss with creditors about kind of our thoughts on this and where it goes. And obviously, we'll be open to discussion on this. But from my perspective as receiver, my current term, technically expires at the end of next year. I think it's December 27th or 28th of 2027. My hope is to have had a plan filed by then. In fact, my intention, let me just say it even more directly, is to have it done, have it filed by then. And then again, based on where the city's economic conditions are and the process, to see where it will go from there. But I don't look at a situation where we would be in a situation where we're in bankruptcy for 10 years or 13 years. That's not my desire here. My desire, honestly, is to come up with a plan, as I talked about before, that will prevent the city from going back into bankruptcy, and to be able to hand the keys back over to the city and its elected officials and its staff, and to watch it prosper as it goes on.
Okay, I think in the interest of time, this will be the last question.
Okay.
And it stems around the fact that Chester is probably more recognized now than possibly ever before, both locally, countywide, statewide, federally, and through some intentional efforts internationally. What do you think people's perception of Chester is, considering our current state? Would you say it's a horror story, a cautionary tale to other cities in the United States and maybe beyond, perfect as is, or something else that you'll describe?
Okay. I appreciate those options, and thank you for the something else. Let me think about that for a second. This is a city that's on the rise. Let me say it that way, right? In some respects, Mayor, it could be described as all of those in different parts of its history, right? A cautionary tale in the sense of not addressing a lot of these issues sooner, right? Where people, certainly when it came to the pension area, and spending of money over here. The horror story in terms of its economics over time, right? What happens when it became deindustrialized, and I think the effects of that, and the effects of a lot of wealth being taken from the city. Perfect as is, I think, in terms of some of its culture, right, in the city. But I think going forward, I mean, I really view it as a city in the rise. I mean, if you talk about Chester and just take a step back, the history of the city is incredible, right? Not just the industrial area, but the fact that Martin Luther King did his seminary here, right? In terms of this being the first city in Pennsylvania, in terms of, Chester will claim it, right? Where the hoagie was invented, right? Having across the street from where I am, the largest, or excuse me, the oldest functioning kind of public building. The history in the city is incredible in terms of its role in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. On a more negative end, the impact of a political machine on the city over the years. But what's incredible about the city right now is it's still here, right? The resiliency of the city. And again, I think it's going to be more of a question for the residents here in terms of what they're feeling. But what I sort of see my role in this right now is again is helping the city kind of reconstitute itself and reconstitute its government to provide those basic services to its residents. Right? This is not a playground, for people that don't live in Chester. Right? Fundamentally, this is a place where people live. It's a community that is very near and dear to the hearts of many. And it's being recognized on a national level. I mean, even what's going on in this receivership, even what's going on in this bankruptcy, even what's going on right now is I think is that this is being done in a different way. Just our discussion here, where we spend most of our time talking about operations, about kind of addressing some of the day-to-day issues in a city. That's a different way of doing receivership. It's a different way of doing Act 47. It's a different way of doing bankruptcy here. And I really do think that like once this is all said and done, the trajectory of the city is very high, both in terms of the folks who are here. And what I've always kind of seen over here is people who really come to Chester, right, and who get to know the place, outsiders like me, fall in love with the place. They see like just incredible. They see it for what it is, right? Not necessarily what it can be or that, but fall in love with it for the people who are already here. And if you come in here with that intent, right, of learning about a community like this, and about hoping to play like a little bit of a role, hopefully in its ascendancy again, and to watch people like you, Mayor, and the other elected officials who are working incredibly hard, right, to deal with issues that are not of your making, right, and that you don't have control over, right, and that I don't have control over. But you've got a public that still demands it. It's an incredible honor. It's humbling. And it's a community that really is like no other community that I've certainly been a part of. And I'm honored and humbled by the friendships and that I've made over the time here.
Well, what's amazing for me as we close out this interview portion of the meeting is the fact that I've only known as a public official the city of Chester in receivership and bankruptcy and working with a receiver and their team. I almost can't imagine functioning without you guys. You're just so integral in our day-to-day operations. And sometimes we're just moving forward, knocking down obstacles as they come, forgetting to just, realize the things that we've accomplished along the way as we continue to tackle the things before us. I'm just going to say with all sincerity, it's a pleasure to be working with you and your team on a daily basis. You've really established a culture in this city that I hope to continue, far beyond my years here, as a way that just operates professionally, really understands government and its intricacies. And people, I'm telling you, as I travel the country representing Chester proudly, people are really interested in this journey that we're going through right now. And to know that, you've previously worked around the country with the most troubled cities in America, and you constantly say, this has been the most surprising. I'm not going to say the worst place you've ever been. I'm going to let you say that, but, probably the most challenging to get back on its feet. It's a great time to be the mayor in the city of Chester. So thank you for all the work that you do. Andrew, you're sitting out there looking like a proud papa. I mean, he comes out of your camp, and we just thank DCED for all that they do, for all the support that they give. I know there's been some talk more in the past than currently. Like, oh, they cost so much money. If just the money was used in the city of Chester, it could have saved Chester. Well, we know it goes far beyond money. It's there's a lot of things that we need to turn this ship around and working with you guys to get it together. I've learned a lot. I appreciate you guys, and I'm the city through conversations like this, very complicated process, this receivership, this bankruptcy. You can't expect every citizen to understand everything that's going on. It's mind-boggling, but your capacity to be able to understand it all and to react to it all and to have solutions for it all, whether they're right, wrong, or indifferent, whether we argue, fight, and disagree, is stuff that we just keep under the covers as we move forward. So thank you so much. I can't appreciate you guys more for helping us down here, and whatever the end may look like, it's going to be good.
Right. I appreciate that, Mayor. And, just like you, just like your staff makes you look good, mine does the same. So, we're lucky to have people who truly do care about that. And, I can tell all of you that, the commitment here goes both ways. I know members of my team here, I think who are among the best in the state. In fact, the best in the state. I will brag like a proud papa here. Th this has been a challenge for all of us, and so again, we're looking forward to getting the city out, and we're looking forward, to more of the MFRACs as well. I think this is a good opportunity for us to kind of check in. Maybe we'll do another one of these, Mayor, at the end of the year. You haven't lost it, your interviewing skills, so and I certainly do appreciate it. So.
Well, let's do this. Everybody who's watching, interview's over. Meetings turned back to VJ Kapoor.
All right. Thanks, Mayor. So with that, anybody else have anything for the good of the group? I know we didn't have any public comment, um, uh, but any other business that we want to address today?
I just want to say that I'm really proud that we've had the resources this year to do a lot more citizen engagement throughout the summer. We're calling it the Mayor's Safe Summer Series, but we're out in the neighborhoods twice a week now. The Delaware County District Attorney's Office will be out on Sundays, throughout the summer. So just to be out in the neighborhoods, really surprising many people with sort of a pop-up carnival right there in their neighborhoods. It's just so cool. The kids come out, the parents come out. People just want to see what's going on, spend a couple hours getting water ice, water slides, hot dogs, burgers. It really makes an atmosphere where, I'm comfortable talking to people who are now comfortable talking to me. We literally get to know each other, the promise of, hey, I'm gonna come back and find out more about this or more about that. And it only takes a little bit of a conversation for people to really open up and go beyond the title versus, just plain resident, where they tell you what's on their mind. And it's great to have them interact with some of our community people who can, answer many of their questions or solve some of their problems, sitting right there at their booth there. So these are really important moments for us to, do some extended engagement in the community. The summer, the summer is becoming fun just for me, just to get out of this office, these four walls. I've always said that if you always catch me in the office, I'm not doing my job. And sometimes we just have to create these spaces that get me out of here because there's so much work that has to be done in here. So we're just off to a great start in the summer. We just did two, we've got 10 more, and then a big bash at the end of the summer. Good things are coming here in the city of Chester.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Mayor. Anybody else? All right, folks. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful rest of your July, and we'll catch you then. Thanks all.